This is Donna with More Than Review, and we are here in Nashville at the CBA Unite conference. And I'm thrilled to be here with Dr. Mary, and she, well, you're an expert in kids, is what everyone is saying. So, and then she's going to tell us a little bit about herself, and then also the books that she's written, and then we'll just ask her a few questions. So, Dr. Mary, I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Okay. Well, I'm probably the only author you'll ever interview who didn't want to write a book. I meet a lot of people who want to write a book.
Yeah.
But I told God I was too busy.
Oh, wow.
I had 3 preschoolers, I had 3 children in 3 years, and I was getting my doctorate. And that is an arduous process for 5 years, full-time. And I just told God I was too busy. But what happened was that we didn't have any devotions to use for our children. They were all active. 3 little ones running around, and I needed something that would be action-oriented. Mm-hmm. So I just wrote how God was at work in their lives, and I wrote it on McDonald's napkins and spelling lists, and we used that as our daily devotions then. And that became Little Visits with Jesus, got on the Christian bestseller list, and the rest is history. I realized at that point that I had really lived my life backwards. I had met my life goals when I was 32. I had an earned doctorate. I had hoped for 2 children. We had 3. I was teaching full-time at a state university. And then I realized, wow, what is God's plan for my life?
Oh, wow.
And when I realized the mistake I had made of living life backwards, God opened this incredible world to children's Christian publishing. And the experiences I've had and the opportunities have just been terrific. I am such a good example of what God can do, even with an unwilling or unlikely servant. And I think if God can do all this through me, who said no, just think what he can do if you say yes. And that's really been my life now for the last 30 years. I've really tried to go through the doors that he opens instead of the ones I think I should go through. So it's a great testimony to what an incredible God we have. And what a forgiving God. That he could take me and say, okay, Mary, you made some mistakes. You went along your plan. Now I'll take you on mine. Wow. So.
And do you feel like you've done more than you would have ever dreamed?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. To work with people like Fred Rogers, to have a stack of letters from Fred, to work with DreamWorks, to see the animations happen with some incredible products, to speak to 5,000 people at a time. I could not have dreamed of those kind of opportunities. Yeah. So it's just been an amazing life, and it's all a testimony to what he can do.
That's awesome. So show us and tell us a little bit about your most recent book.
Oh, this one, the Hear Me Reads are really close to my heart. Not only because they've sold more than 1 million copies in the series, but now that we have the Hear Me Read Level 2 Bible, it's really terrific because I have a whole wealth of positives of kids who've learned to read with the Hear Me Read books. The Hear Me Read 2s go one step beyond the 25 words or less for a Bible story. So Hear Me Read 2 Bible is really a compilation of 8 stories about 2nd grade level for the child who is starting to be an independent reader but still needs some encouragement and some help along the way. And that's why what I did in here was to put a note to the adult for each of the stories. And even though in all my books I have something for the adult, in the Hear Me Read Bible 2, I have a full page for the adult. And that's very, very intentional because we have missed a whole generation of parents in terms of spiritual nurture. And we have some parents who don't have the confidence that they can share God's word with a child. And I want a parent or an aunt or an uncle to feel that they know a little bit and they can share God's word. So there's either background on the Bible story or some relevant point. For example, in the No-Go King, I mentioned how sometimes we tell God no. And of course that comes from my life experience. But how many of us haven't done that same thing and continue to do that, even when we know there really is a better way. So each of these stories has that to the adult. But the Hear Me Read Bible 2 has stories that are all action-oriented. What we know in terms of literacy rates is that boys, and not to be sexist here, but boys, really struggle to get into that independent reading and to truly love reading. There's a little threshold that they have to kind of hop over, the kids do. And girls tend to find it easier than boys. And so what I tried to do was choose stories that are all really live action. Because kids will say, if it's hard, they'll say, well, the Bible's boring, or it's not interesting. Nobody can say that the stories in the Bible are boring. And so I chose stories that are high drama. We talk about being with kids, we don't want a lot of drama. Well, we want a lot of drama to help kids get through these Bible stories. And they are full of drama. I mean, what child wouldn't want to know about a king who was 7 years old? But Joash, that's a story we often miss. What curriculum is going to deal with Joash? Or what curriculum is going to address Gideon, who leads a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller army with a bunch of lanterns and horns? Just really exciting, dramatic stories that are so engaging and engrossing, even with our DigiKids today, even with those kids who are so addicted to their screens, but they just can't help but get into these stories because they are so engaging. In the adult notes, one of the things that I really tried to do was to look for a relevant point of contact. Because it's so easy for people to say, oh, the Bible, that old book. No way. God's word is so relevant. And the themes and the concepts are so real today. And we need to remind our adults who are really handling the spiritual nurture of children that the Bible is the most relevant book of all times, not only the most read book, but the most relevant. And if we can remind those who are into spiritual nurture with kids that this really matters for today. The Bible is a book for today and tomorrow. I think that message sometimes gets lost a little bit. So that's what I tried to do in the Hear Me Read too.
That is great. And I do think, sometimes we are nervous, like what question is the kid going to ask and are we going to be able to answer it? And I love the part for the parent. I think that's really good.
Well, and we have to be honest. None of us are going to be perfect parents. None of us are going to be perfect at sharing God's word. But that's why God sent Jesus. He forgives. And he expects us to be faithful to our calling. And if our calling is spiritual nurture, to help a child journey with Jesus, if we are faithful to that calling, we can be honest that we don't know all the answers. And that's okay.
That's good. let me ask some questions. Like, how long does it take, like, to complete a children's book? Because I'm, especially one like this where you're going through and picking out like action-oriented stories, like, it seems like that would take a long time.
It really depends.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll start something and then put it aside and then come back to it. Sometimes a book will just write itself and just write really, really fast. So it's a hard question to answer because it varies so much. And my children's books, and I don't know, probably have 40 or 50 in print right now. I don't know how many. But, you know, it really depends on how much research I have to do and how it seems that the Lord is blessing my work. You know, if things aren't going right, I take a step back and I say, you know, I just have to wait for better direction on this or other direction, because maybe it's not the right time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. So what do you want readers to get from your books, whether it's the parent or the child?
That God is a very real presence in our lives, and that we can always go to Him. And when you open the Bible, you will always learn something new, or have a concept reaffirmed for you, or there will be some takeaway from that biblical truth that will matter to you today. It's not something that some year there'll be a takeaway. Oh no, there will be a takeaway for today, because God is so real.
I think we have done that. You can read the same story different times, and you can have a different, I guess, revelation, you know, to yourself about that. That is great.
Absolutely.
So my last question will be more of a fun one. What would readers be surprised to know about you?
That I really like going to the gym.
Oh, that is surprising. Most of us have to drag ourselves there.
Well, I feel like when I've gone to the gym in the morning, I've accomplished something right away in the day.
Yeah.
And then regardless of how else the day goes, at least I've done my elliptical and my stretching and all that kind of stuff. And I really do enjoy it. I've always been, I'm never gonna be skinny, but I really like going to the gym.
Wow, that's good. That's what we need to pray for right there. I want to enjoy and be able to get up in the morning.
I do, because every day is a new beginning.
Yeah.
And that's one of the joys we have in Jesus.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Mary.
Oh, thank you.
And
My
I'm
pleasure.
thrilled. We will have links to the books on our website when we post them. Thank you.